Amos Yee that's recently been in the news. We should not judge people who have sexual attraction towards kids.
No, but you got tried before.
No, but I think many people don't know they like BDSM until they suddenly gonna choke. Then like, oh yeah.
It's a very big question to ask.
Are you guilty of liking children a little too much? This is your daily Ketchup.
Boom.
So this is a trigger warning because we are going to be talking about pedophilia. So if you're uncomfortable, do come back for our next episode instead. On to the episode. Good morning, everybody. Breaking news from the Americas. There's a very famous Amos. There used to be claimed by Singapore, but no longer. Amos Yee that's recently been in the news, and we thought that it's quite interesting to break down a bit of like the psychology of what's going on in his mind.
I think this is something that we have visited before, but without a doctor. Then everyone's like, oh, you're unqualified.
But today
Now
we
we
have someone
qualified.
qualified. Welcome, Dr. Sean Yee.
Hey!
Hi, thanks.
So Dr. Sean is a clinical psychologist that has more than 2 decades of experience. Okay, so for those of you who forgotten who Amos Yee is, in 2015, I think around the time when Mr. Lee Kuan Yew died, he went quite viral for a video that he did that was titled, I think Lee Kuan Yew is finally dead. And
Oh, shit,
that actually
right.
got quite a bit of debate because on one hand, people were like lauding him for like, why you are a proponent of free speech and then you stand up for like what people in Singapore don't dare to say about this dictator. Apostrophe, for those who cannot see me doing it. And then on the other hand, because I mean, a lot of people view him as a hero and someone who has really done a lot for Singapore. So they were quite offended as well. So there's these two ends, and then in the end, he got charged for trying to like sow discord. And then after that, when it was leading up to his NS time, he escaped to the US seeking political asylum. So he was eventually granted that. But it came out that he was actually making advances with a 14-year-old girl.
Okay.
And at the time, he was like 20 plus. Now he's 24.
Huh? He's so young. What accomplished criminal, to be honest.
And so he ended up in jail. And he came out on parole this October 2023. As part of the parole, he was actually not allowed to access the internet.
Oh,
But he
okay.
in fact did, and then he even wrote that he would re-offend. So he's back in jail now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so in his head, right, like I went to read up more about all the stuff that he's been writing about. And he's trying to fight the battle for pedophilia to be kind of almost like,
Accepted.
yeah, to be accepted. And I found that very interesting. So even in the details of his relationship with that girl, right, it was about how he felt that it was a normal relationship. And his definition is that as long as I never force or myself onto the individual or harm them, which can happen regardless of age, then it's a consensual relationship.
But do you think it's possible for a child, a young teen, right, to be able to be in a consensual relationship with someone that is way older?
Are you talking about someone who is younger than 16?
Yes.
14.
I think it's kind of tricky because obviously I've never seen him, so I never assessed him, so I can't really say that much about him like it would be fact. We're talking also about an age range where we may not be very certain that the person actually understands what it means to be in a consensual relationship. And also, one of the things that came up about grooming as well is that it's possible as an older adult that you can groom someone who's a lot younger and socialize them almost to be in that relationship.
And to think that certain things are okay.
Yeah, that's right.
What do you mean by a trustful relationship? What does that look like?
Well, in more normative terms, right, a trustful relationship is one in which you can feel safe with, that you
Right.
can actually share in confidence with the person.
So you're saying that like in the case where it's there's a minor involved, right? They might the information that they share in confidence might be used against them to manipulate them or whatever.
That's
Not
still
in all
happening today
cases.
though. As adults.
Yeah, that's why. I still cannot see the difference.
Are we not preparing them for life? Hey, relax. John.
Maybe to start with, we want to try to understand. We take a step back, right?
Okay. Before we go to jail.
Hold on a second.
They're so close. We have one foot in.
So psychologically speaking, we need to understand development, right? Psychological development. This will give us a better starting point. Our brains will not have fully developed all the way up to early adult age,
Which is
20 to 25 years old.
okay.
So the front part of our brains, which control planning, organization, decision making.
Right.
So those things are pretty important. But when it comes down to decision making, that's even more difficult. Because whilst in some countries, right, there's also the idea of the mature minor, which is about 15, 16 years old, it is still very, very unclear. It's murky waters
Right.
to say that this person can actually exercise their own decision making with absolute confidence that they know what they're doing.
So sorry. So you're saying 21, then everything fully developed.
For
I
most
thought it was
people.
25.
Between the ages like 20 to 25, then this part of your brain then fully forms,
Okay.
right? But that's one thing, that's physical, right? The other thing is your understanding, right? If your understanding is kind of like shot, then it doesn't really matter.
Do you think that pedophilia is treated the way it should be by society and by law at the moment? Because I was looking up at statistics, right? If if it's regarded as a mental illness also, right? That 5% of men in the global population are most likely like classified under this like having pedophilia, right? And this is
Wow.
not accounting for women also, which is quite a large number. Because if you look at, for example, the percentage of the population that is like LGBT, right? That's 9%. So that means the number of people that have this fetish or this mental illness or disorder, right, is damn a lot. It's just that it's not campaigned for, you know what I mean? You're so scared you go to jail.
Don't send me a joke. So just for facts, right? So if you think about the diagnosis, if it appears in the diagnostics and statistical manual of mental disorders, it is classified as a disorder. Okay, that book does not tell you how it becomes a disorder, but it does tell you that pedophilia or pedophilic disorder is actually a form of paraphilia, which is literally sort of like a deviant way of getting off in some ways.
So like a fetish.
A little bit of a fetish, yes.
It
Right.
is, right?
Yes,
It is a
in
fetish.
a sort of a layman way. And
It's like, I can't believe I'm talking to these idiots.
Everything you dumb down. Wait, sorry, who decides what go inside this book?
so you have a team of researchers as well as doctors
Right.
that make a decision of,
Right.
So at the end of the day, this particular paraphilia is actually aimed at individuals that are pre-pubertal, right? So around the age of 13, 14, where you are just at the age to form breasts and other
Right.
body parts that is recognizable, armpit hair and so on and so forth.
Do you work with, for example, people that have either been diagnosed or admitted to have pedophilic tendencies but are under control?
Yep, I used to see them when I used to be in public health. They tend to spring into our public health system because they got arrested and so on and so forth. So
Right.
how this usually might start for anybody before they become more like sexual offenders, right, is at the start they might do a bit more of the lesser offenses like upskirts,
Right.
videos, getting braver along the way. Then they
For
start
people on Spotify, when he say lesser, he
Air quote.
echo.
yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Nothing is acceptable,
Thank you
Yeah.
for that. So as they get braver, then it may actually offend with more serious offences.
But if they get caught doing the more so-called petty crimes, right?
Yeah.
Is it more likely that they stop?
Chances are it depends on what you're talking about.
Right.
Right? Because if it's pedophilia, in the good book, that DSM, it says that individuals with pedophilic tendencies or pedophilia, right, never ever go into remission.
I see.
Never.
So it's not a phase.
No.
If you like fit, you like fit, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't suddenly go up and
Let
like
me think
cow.
about this.
No, man. Isn't it the same?
It's like if you like girl, you like girl.
Yeah, okay. So like all of us start
So
out as a pedophile, they were not right now because we are 15.
But at the end of the day, I need to say because at the end of the day, it is the whole point is that a lot of people with pedophilic tendencies may be hidden, right,
Yeah.
from sight because these are largely a lot of preference, a lot of interests that have or have not been explored yet. And why that's so important to be aware of is that because then you can not just safeguard your children, that's not the whole point, the world is not just a dangerous place, but it's also sort of to be aware of development as well of some of these things.
Right. Actually, on the same note, I was thinking about, I thought which is what I thought you were gonna say, is that it's so important to protect underage porn, not just to protect the children, but to protect the wider population from discovering or awakening this inner fetish they might have that might make the world an even more dangerous place. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think your pedo just gets activated though. You know what I mean?
No, but I think many people don't know they like feet, for example, until suddenly, or they don't like BDSM until they suddenly gonna choke. Then like, oh yeah, like at age 37, someone choke you. Then like,
No,
bad.
but you got try before, nah? You know what I mean?
Okay,
like,
hold
have
on
you
a second.
stumbled upon like a strange category of porn that is not a turn on to you at all, and then you try?
Try it. What?
Getting off to it.
No lah.
Why? You see, you never even try.
No lah. As in I won't lah. As in I won't try as in try lah. No lah. I won't try. But I have seen lah.
No,
but maybe if I see, then to you it's a strange category. To me it's not. Then I try already ma.
Then there's
Then
something
we wouldn't
different
know,
already,
ma.
right?
Yeah, correct. But I wouldn't know. There's no one to confirm. You see.
You know, if I may say, right, there are some scenarios, right, because what we do as well is the study of the development of pathology, which is this kind of disorders at the end of the day. So we have found actually that for some people, not all, that it's a result of neglect, lack of care, inadequate caregiving.
Nurture lah.
So it's a
not
childhood
nature.
trauma thing.
So what then does therapy do? So for example,
Yeah.
if there's a viewer at home, right, that realize they like to sniff underwear, for example, what could therapy do? Like
Treatment sometimes would have to be, well, it's a long-term treatment to start with. This treatment would be to gain rapport with the person and pass that to assist them to see and understand what led to this in the first place, right? Helping them. Sometimes it's also a matter of not understanding how are the ways to gain intimacy, how to form more healthy relationships.
right, like they have more success with younger people as opposed to people their age.
Well, it's more like healthier relationships. So whether it's people older than you or younger than you, right? And what sort of relationships can you have, right? The purpose is to live a better life lah. They call it, there are a couple of models overseas that we use as a way to treat individuals like these.
So what are some of the common, or not say common, but some of the possible childhood traumas that lead to such tendencies?
I mean, there are some that might lead to a formation of personality issues, right? That might be akin to sexual, physical, emotional abuse or neglect. Those things are quite always a mainstay. You tend to find them in families that have a lot of alcohol, gambling, preoccupied, states of mind. That means, if you want to go to a parent or caregiver, they're always somewhere else, or they're quite dismissive of your needs. So even if you decide to express some difficulties to them, they're not really listening, or they in fact might attack you for being weak or stupid or so on and so forth.
Right.
Then you grow in some ways to believe that my needs are not important lah. So what the hell, right? In the end of the day, we might not even want to bother telling people our problems anymore.
Okay, I think I'm like that.
I also think you're like that.
But not everybody, at the end of the day,
I
develops
think my
into
childhood was
full-blown.
really like that. Interesting.
Welcome to therapy.
No, but then what now? You know what I mean?
Now you go for real therapy and then figure it out. And then
But why? Like, what am I trying to get out of it?
So like I think one of the previous things that we explored before is that in Japan, if I'm not wrong, they have certain like brothels where the girls are dressed up to look underage. And then that is kind of a good outlet to support people who might have this. Do you think that is helpful to
the
issue
fact that
like
this
this?
can be a business makes me very scared to go to Japan.
5% of the population.
4% of them are in Japan.
Yeah.
Well, look, I can't profess to be an expert in Japanese culture, lah, but if we look at on the outset, right, respectfully to our Japanese friends, is that generally quite a closed-in, introverted. Well, not always, okay, like a bit more conservative. That's the word for it. Conservative culture. There might be a lot of suppression of expressions. Whether or not it helps, I don't know. But then, it might then bring forward the idea that, they might try to legitimize some of these expressions of behavior.
Right.
So do you think overall it's a good or bad thing for the country that they have this outlet there?
Well, I don't know. But as long as there's an outlet, but done in a safe way, right? Then
Yeah,
it might
but
be
because it's an outlet until it becomes a gateway, correct?
No.
Okay, so I got one. This one good. Let's go. Okay.
Who's panties?
When do you get to know Pat?
I know her at 15, data at 18.
Were you attracted to her at 15?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, right, if I give you a photo of her at 15, you think you can do something with it?
It's a good one.
Give her a tribute.
No, I don't think so. But then again, she looks so different. I really invested. Yeah, I really don't know what I saw in her 15. I also don't know what she saw in me, to be fair.
But you think you can try?
No, I wouldn't have the motivation to. I
No,
wouldn't want
now
to.
we challenge you. So you go home, then you find a picture, then you think you can.
And this is somebody that you were attracted to, you are attracted to.
No, so now there are, like doctors say, there are a lot of factors that come into play. How determined are you as a person to not want to let
prove
people
a
down?
point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you now, okay, actually this is a perfect example of how I can prove that the child porn is not a gateway. Because I'm giving you something, right, there's so many ways that it can make it work for you, yet it's going to be so difficult and
Yeah. No. But gateway for people with innate desire.
Yeah. But it goes back to the porn thing also, right? It's like if you don't get turned on by this, right, and you won't even bother to try. So how does it become like a gateway for you?
Because
No, as in
it's
if I
just
do-
girls,
if I
it's
do
just
get-
girls dressing up as uniform, but it's over 18 or /21.
So it's also a girl that's shitting on you, ma. Then why you cannot jack off to that porn?
Why you always gotta take it to shit?
Because I just use
That's
the
one of
extreme.
the more extreme examples.
I see. Look, there
Wait,
are.
so you mean you tried before?
Wait, you see before?
No,
Why
no,
you say I see?
graphical images. But if we were to look at the development, as I mentioned just now, right, these are technically then not so healthy or ways of developing intimate, close relationships, right? So at the very beginning, should things not be interrupted, you have more sort of like typical ways of sort of getting close to people. I'm not saying for all cases, but you might have healthier ways of delving into the sexual sphere, being introduced to it, and as a result, having better communication of needs as well. Sexual needs involved.
So I'm curious because we did talk about how there seems to be a slippery slope when it comes to pedophilic tendencies, right? But then why does this argument not apply to, say, if I play violent video games and then research has shown that that does not link to a higher tendency for violence in my real life or that I would eventually might become a murderer, you know?
The video game stuff, right, is separate. So
Why?
like this thing, okay, so at least with the video games, it's becoming to sound like a psychology 101 lecture, but with the
Correct.
Oh, no, we're
It's
only at
supposed to be like
101.
that. Yeah.
It goes to 401. At 1.
with the video game stuff, right? If you know, like the US or military, right? In general, they use games to be able to train response time,
Oh.
right? Raiding and so on and so forth. So
Right.
these can be particularly violent or aggressive. It doesn't mean that you go out and start want to shoot people. That's not what it is. It has a purpose. And if let's say you understand the idea of cathartic response, that means you want to let out tendencies to be frustrated or aggressive tendencies into a more socially acceptable scenario like gaming, then it might be actually good for expressing your frustrations and anger. Not the same as the pedophilic development though, right? At least from psychological ways of thinking, that this has to come from some degree of insult to start with.
So that means if I feel like a child, if I go and watch child porn and jack off to that, then it's
Or perceived child porn played by adult actors
steady.
Oh, so the treatment is to have a bunch of adults play like underage children in porn, and then after that, I can let off my steam by watching this adult child porn instead.
But then you see, right? Like sometimes they say like it's amateur, right? But then it's actually actors, right? Then it ruins it for you also. So if the pedophile know that it's an adult actor, right? Then they also
must
see.
get really convincing one.
Yeah.
I need the SD version.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out whether it's just that we are not vocal enough about a subject like this, right? And we are not treating it the way we should.
Yeah.
Similar to how
Simply
like in
because
the
there's
last
not
10
enough.
years.
Yeah.
Because in the last 10 years, the whole narrative towards like homosexuality all that has shifted greatly to become so accepted,
Yeah.
right? What if pedophilia as a form of another mental disorder is just
Yeah.
waiting for its time? And dude, 5%, right, is the same weightage, if not greater than the gay percentage in LGBT.
But the gay takes up to L and G.
Yeah.
then that totals out to about 7%.
And
This
don't
one is
forget
almost-
about all the
this is up
T's
to
that are
5,
also gays.
And this one, the women haven't even been accounted for.
Right.
So highly likely, right, there is almost the same number of people that we are dealing with. So it's really just that we are not having the right conversations around it also.
I mean, to differentiate it a little bit more, the nature of the age range, right, because of the vulnerable population and those adults or older persons that tend to be males that prey on these minors, right, by definition would make them sexual predators.
Why is the word prey though?
Yeah, why is the word prey being used?
Why if they
Because
like?
then you are into manipulating and grooming those individuals.
But what if I'm not trying to?
Yeah, what if I'm honest with this person? I really like this person. We get to know each other. We actually are building a proper relationship. Because I cannot. This basically, right, is based on the assumption that children cannot form real relationships, consensual
adults,
relationships
yeah.
prior to.
But there are
being
also
16.
a lot of like high school sweethearts that end up getting married. So they do form real relationships.
Like my wife and I.
Aha.
I think these questions are too big to be able to be answered in a fuller way, such that it can take into consideration how we need to focus on protecting the minors, especially at the age where you don't really know what you are getting yourself into, and potentially being duped into something that, what we understand can be quite a threat to one's psychological safety. Because then the impact here is rest of your life.
I do think that this might lead back a bit to needs of the society. So we don't know how much of the percentage of people that have an attraction towards children, right, actually are out to be forming proper consensual relationships with them, and how much are just there to prey on them because they don't get sex elsewhere, or like they feel like there's some form of inhibition elsewhere that they need to prey on younger kids in order to release that, right?
But that's
we
the
don't know
same
what
problem.
is the percentage.
But you could also say that they are also outliers or bad actors when it comes to like men finger blasting like a little boy's asshole. You know what I mean? Like in the gay space. Like sorry. I just had to make it
No, but if
for
you,
impact.
if you think about it, right?
What kind of impact?
If you think about it, the people with the pedophilic tendencies, right, might only prey on those individuals at that age range, nothing further. So they're not interested in having like a deeper, more meaningful relationship.
Oh,
per
okay.
se.
Yeah.
Because if
But
they
more
grow older
specific.
already, then
Then they're
done.
out. Yeah.
They can't get turned on.
Oh, that's interesting. No, I like that.
Wait, sorry, what do you like?
The idea that after they get like they hit a certain age,
Yeah.
then I'm like they are no longer sexually attracted. Yeah, but that's the same with normal relationships as well.
What?
You
No,
lose
but
the
if you
attraction to your
actually-
partner.
No. What I'm saying is that pedophilia, by definition, is only sexual
Pre-pubes. Yeah.
attraction.
Yeah.
Which means they are not there to form relationship either.
I have a conclusion.
Right?
Oh.
So then we need a different subset, right, for the people that are not suffering from this. That they feel a sexual attraction towards people who are younger, but they actually want to form a genuine relationship that doesn't stop when they pass the tweens age range.
Right.
You know, because now we are lumping everyone together, but there's a very specific definition actually for people who are pedophiles.
What's really interesting about this conversation today, right, is that it does bring up a lot of questions that are not very clear to everybody, right? Because if we're not doing this thing for a living or studying, right, it becomes very confusing. Then there's a lot of assumptions. So it's good that we ask these questions, this follow-up kind of conversation. I do think that this area still needs to be highly researched.
Yeah.
We don't see enough of these people in general across treatment, right? Singapore, Canada, wherever that we go, to be able to say enough about these people. There might be
Right.
people that write about the treatment manuals and then risk evaluation. If it goes to court, then how do you know these people won't reoffend? It's very hard. You have to take many factors into consideration.
To tie back a bit to the Amos Yee thing, right, he has also self-declared that while he was in prison, he was diagnosed with NPD, which is Narcissistic Personality Disorder. Could you explain that a bit before I go deeper?
Firstly, whether they got the diagnosis right or wrong is another thing.
Whether or not he got the diagnosis at all is another
Yeah,
thing. Because I
it's
cannot
another
find any
thing.
record of it.
Right, sure, because I didn't see this person. But narcissistic personality disorder, as it is, right, is a personality disorder. And we know that personality disorders are disorders of characterization. So that would mean that no matter what context you're in, work, play, personal life, you would have difficulties maintaining stable relationships. They have particular attitudes, in this case, problems with authority figures, some antisocial behavior as well, right? That means you might hold very stark opinions against the dominant views. What's underlying all this might be a sense of vulnerability.
As in avoidance of vulnerability.
Perhaps.
Ah, sounds familiar. Anyway.
Okay, shall we give them some space?
My time start now. My 1 hour start.
No, so what I find interesting about this is that because Amos Yee himself has actually said that he feels that narcissism is actually a form of self-hate, and that people mistake narcissists as people who are filled with confidence and love themselves too much. But then it's actually that they have nothing to brag about, and it's a front that they are putting up.
He's so wise. Amos is pretty wise, in like when he like goes.
As in, I would assume that he would have read up about it.
Yeah.
As in, he's a good writer. And he's also
He's a great
good
writer,
speaker,
yeah.
But it's just used in a slightly different way than
Why you want to agree with me, but like you don't dare? You just want
First
me to
time,
get burned
first
by myself.
You know, I wonder what you guys think, right, about individuals that say that they are aware of their own stuff, but then they wear it like a badge of honor on their shoulder.
I hate it. Yeah.
No, same.
I absolutely hate it.
Right. It creates a sense of enraged response from people around. Plus, he has a lot of polarizing comments. He causes people to then start to get quite reactive to him. And that may be how he
likes
gets
to
some
rile people
attention.
up. Yeah.
Is he just attention seeking?
I don't know if he's just attention seeking,
Right.
but that, the way in which he puts things out there, gets people's attention.
So good writer lah. But along the lines of like the narcissist, what MPD is it?
Yeah, just say the short form.
What are you supposed to do with it? Like, because it does half the time, right? I think the problem with like a lot of these personality disorders especially is that I don't know whether it's normal or if it's an actual disorder or a disability, or am I supposed to medicate, or am I,
A good example to look at it is in all of us, we have different personality levels, right? If you will.
ISTP.
Like if you go to
ENTP.
if you go to like an ice cream shop, right, and then you look at different flavors, all of us have all the flavors. Some flavors might be stronger in others, so that would be maybe some narcissism. Others might be introversion, for example. So we might have ups and downs of these. It's just that certain people will have a very high of some of these, right? So if you look at for example, the forensic or prison population, if you throw a stone, you're gonna hit someone with antisocial personality, right? It's just a cluster of all those people together.
Okay.
So all of us in the population, we might have differences, like an individual difference, and this is what we study in psychology, which is everyone has a certain individual difference, and the development of that is how we are brought up, how we are exposed to education, our culture, and so on and so forth.
So then how do, like, for example, if say somebody has the MPD, right, then is it a matter of figuring out what kind of lifestyle best suits this person? Or are you trying to correct the way that they think?
It's kind of hard to say, because ultimately when someone does want to come into treatment, there is some need for correction. But at the outset, we can't tell this person, hey, we think better than you. You need to think in this way to then be accepted in
But
society.
what's wrong with that? For example.
You say, why can't we
Yeah,
tell
like using the ice cream analogy, right? Are you trying to turn rum and raisin into vanilla? Or are you trying to find like where are the people that like rum and raisin, you know what I mean? And then serve those clients like...
Or what's wrong with telling them clearly what you are doing is unacceptable to society? This is how you might want to tone it down.
It depends on the standpoint that you're taking from. So if you were to be from a law standpoint, very clear cut, you can tell them that. But if you come from a treatment standpoint, you would turn this person away.
Alright, so the fear is turning them away from treatment.
Right. That's one, but also thinking that, we're better than you, you should be, this way.
That would get me as a customer. Like,
So what's his problem?
As a parent, if I start thinking that my child is
He's sexy. Oh, sorry. I thought the parent is the pedophile.
displaying some sexy... okay, kidding.
later after this, can you just diagnose all of us?
No,
Let's just see what we get.
Like if I notice that my 20-year-old child, for example, is like watching some like child porn, what do I do?
Why are you watching your child watch child porn? You naughty
They're doing it
parent.
in the- They're doing it in the living room. Then I arrived home and I caught him.
To start with, I think this is a very, very tricky place for a lot of parents because the birds and the bees, to start with, you want to be able to have light discussions about things on a daily basis if you can, that your kids will access you. So as they go through puberty and there are more questions, then because you've already had that relationship with them, then they'll, what's this? Or if you see that they are experimenting or looking at certain things, then you can follow up with questions about it, follow up with validating them with what they're going through right now, and then start to guide them to tell them what's healthy, what's not healthy.
Is there a pattern that people who have more difficulty talking to their parents about sex becoming more sexually deviant? So if when I child, then after that my parents always skirt around the topic, don't want to talk about birds and the bees. Then I grow up and then I tend to be more sexually deviant or have more of this paraphilia.
Where do you come from? The dustbin?
Not necessarily.
I got that one before.
No, not at all. It is quite a common thing for parents to feel uncomfortable talking about some of these things.
Yeah.
Along the lines of we see it as a very common thing when we see parents in therapy for their children, right? Whether it's about needing to talk about some sensitive things like what happened, and then because parents don't dare to bring it up, even though it's hard to, we still tell them to try, as opposed to not saying anything at all.
No, honestly, if a viewer right now, is personally struggling with something like this, say they do, they in their own private spaces, right? Yeah, they are guilty of jacking off the child porn. They hate the fact that they do it. They're confused.
They know it's wrong.
Yeah.
What can they do?
What can they do?
No, I think they can tell someone they feel safe with, that they realize that this is an issue, then see if they can seek some help with that. Right? Help can come in the form of many things. It doesn't just have to always be therapy. Right? Some people that whether they believe a certain religion, whether that's a way in which they believe can help them. Some will be about help me understand this, whether it's kept within the family first, because this is very hard to talk about.
Actually, I think it makes sense. As in, I think that having somebody that, aside from your therapist, right, that you can talk to, if I feel like I'm having these feelings again, I almost have a friend to support me or to keep me in check, right? Then that is helpful also. So it's like a partnership along with your therapy as well. But not the sole solution. It's just that now I have someone that I feel confident to talk to, right? I'm not alone in this battle. I think that makes a big difference.
I think what our conversation will turn out is we
also
just send each other random. We just send each other random. Does this also turn you on?
Then you'll both go for couples therapy. Okay, so thank you very much for watching today's episode, and of course, thank you, Dr. Sean, for being here and answering our absurd questions. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye. Okay, so if the situation is I'm a parent, my 15-year-old child comes to me and say, "Oh, my friends are having sex. I'm also curious about sex, and I want to try sex." Then
try it with
what?
this 27-year-old guy that I trust.
But I must watch because family can give you advice.
But I don't want to be too intrusive, so I'll just record it and watch it at my own time.
Oh my gosh.
Then now you want child porn. We broke 7 laws. And then we will send it over to your therapist.
Wait, so how?
Everybody implicated.
Just to clarify, no.
No.